What simple plot hole ruined a whole movie for you? Bruce Wayne being completely broke in A Dark Knight Rises because his share trading was allowed to stand despite the fact that there was a terrorist attack on the stock exchange. Also, the richest man in the city has his entire fortune in the stock market. Nothing in bonds, T-bills, real estate, precious metals, etc. Limitless. If he's so ducking smart, why didn't he pay the drug dealer? That would be like priority 1 even for your average moron. Yeah, this always bothered me. That would have been like next day, after doubling my money, in paying this guy back. Worst case is you set back your trading gains one day. You can leave the country. The purge. No one tries to do fraud during those hours. What a waste of potential. And man, they specifically say early in the movie that his mass won't change. Only the space between his molecules. So he'd always weigh 200 lbs. Later on in the same movie, Hank Pym has a freaking tank on his keychain. Also the fact that the ants can carry Scott. I know ants are strong, but he still weighs 200 pounds. In Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales, they explain that if you give away the magic compass, it releases your worst fear. Jack's worst fear is Salazar and his crew, so they are freed from the Devil's Triangle when Jack trades the compass for rum. But Jack willingly gave away the compass multiple times in the previous movies, and Salazar was not freed. But to be fair, the exact words were, if you betray the compass. And since Jack plans out everything, maybe in the previous movies he knew he would get the compass back. In DMTNT, he trades it away forever. How the hell did Austin Powers get that little truck completely sideways in that hallway? He's an international man of mystery. Baby, yeah. Why do the cars have doors? Or seats? Why does McQueen and Doc Hudson have to start their engines for their dirt track race? They drove to the starting line, yet they had to still start their engines? The film Tiptoes. Yes. The one where Academy Award winning actor Gary Oldman walks around on his knees pretending to be a person with dwarfism. The whole premise of that film is that a couple, both average sized, find out they're having a kid, and it is revealed that the fiance's family are all dwarfs, which freaks him out, with the idea of his child being a dwarf too. Throughout the film it's them coming to terms with the possibility, yeah. You can't carry dwarfism. It is a dominant trait. Either you have it and are visibly a dwarf, or you do not have the gene at all. Watching this as a dwarf myself was the dumbest experience I've ever had. Edit. As a caveat to this, there are literally hundreds of different medical conditions which fall under the definition of dwarfism, and there will be forms which are recessive. But the forms of dwarfism that the family has, achondroplasia/hypochondroplasia, they have a mixture, do not fall under that, and are dominant forms. In Primer, why didn't Guy 2 in Timeline 4 come back to Timeline 3 and destroy the box, so Guy 1 in Timeline 8 couldn't go back in time to Timeline 5 and fold the box into Timeline 6? Gravity. So many mistakes. The one that stands out is George Clooney floating away at rapid speed after he detaches himself from Sandra Bullock. That just doesn't happen. He'll still be going at the same speed as he was before. Who TF is pushing him away? In the American Ring movie, the key plot point for the gal is that she's at the bottom of the well, and the last thing she sees is a ring of light as they slide the covering over the top. The well top is thick brick. The round wooden cover is larger than the hole, obviously, or it would fall down and be a terrible well lid. They clearly slide the lid over the well. It should have been called the Crescent. I couldn't get over it the whole movie. Somehow, Palpatine has returned. In Back to the Future 2, if the old man Biff went back in time to give himself the sports almanac, how did he go back to the future to put the time machine back for Marty and the Doc? At this point, wouldn't he only be able to go into the now new future where Biff is rich? A quiet place. I can't believe aliens would hear you whisper, but can't hear your bare feet pad across the ground, your general breathing, your stomach never making involuntarily noises, your elbows, knees, fingers etc never popping on their own. It's like they convince you that the hearing is so astute, but even a dog can hear a creature shuffling nearby when we can't. Seems completely illogical to want me to believe they can hear you whisper, but either they can't hear your stomach growl or you somehow manage to stop it from making any noises. Ever. And not a plot hole. But if it's the ducking end of the world then the chances are not in your favor for surviving. Maybe it's not a good time to get laid without any prevention of pregnancy. Don't be ducking morons. Why does someone always get pregnant? In Philadelphia, Andrew Beckett successfully sues his company for wrongful dismissal after they discover he has AIDS. Except, it's made incredibly clear that it wasn't cause of his AIDS they fire him for being gay. Even the defense makes that point. At that time in Philadelphia, it was 100% legal to fire someone for being gay. The trial should have ended oppositely. In X-Men you can't use Cerebro on Magneto, which I'm 100% fine with because the helmet, but you could use it on someone like Sabretooth who is standing right next to Magneto. Walking Dead, whenever they have 10 vs 2000 zombies scenes, I mean you cannot kill that many zombies with just knife. It will break. Unless it has Unbreaking 3 and Mending. 28 weeks later. Really? No one was guarding the wife who had just been rescued from the infected zone. They were wary of her enough to strap her down, but not enough to order a guard to watch her, even though they did so for the two kids. Right. There were no guards all the way in the building when the dad got infected until he got out and bit enough people to create a group of infected. Also, when they locked the civilians in the room, why was the dad alone when he banged on the back doors that so coincidentally his son peeked out of, as though he wandered the place by himself and found himself there? So somehow has special managing to retain some form of sentience even after getting infected. I would think after he got infected and started biting people, he would just disappear into the hordes of infected. It completely pissed me off. I stopped watching halfway through. Every single Christmas movie involving Santa, the normal plot to those movies is Santa exists, but nobody believes in him. Do the parents just think, are those presents under the tree just appear there? Not sure why nobody ever talks about the fact that at midnight the glass slipper would turn back to a normal shoe just like the dress, carriage, horses and everything else did. Ben Affleck on Armageddon. Wouldn't it be easier to train astronauts to be drillers than it would be to train oil drillers to be astronauts? Michael Bay, shut the duck up. Apostrophe. Gremlins had the how far after midnight question, but that's more of an unanswered question than a plot hole. The animated Beauty and the Beast. In Be Our Guest. The Candleman. It's been a long time since I've watched it. I forget his name. Says they've been rusting for 10 years. Well, that means the Beast was 11 when he turned the witch, Enchantress, away. Also, the Beast was not an 11-year-old king, as it states he was a prince. Where were his parents? I get that he should be nice, but I was an edgy, mean 11-year-old too. Also, when Belle is singing Belle, she starts singing to the sheep at one point. Oh, isn't this amazing? It's my favorite part because you'll see. Here's where she meets Prince Charming, but she won't discover that it's him till chapter 3. When she is singing that, we are given a clear view of Belle's book, and we see an entire page is covered in an illustration. Also, the illustration explains pretty well what's going on. Later, Gaston asks Belle, how can you read this? It doesn't have any pictures. Yes it does. It has pictures detailed enough that even Gaston could understand what was happening in that scene. Dust storms of destructive magnitudes can't happen on Mars, but Matt Damon can still play one hell of a botanist. The Rescuers Down Under. After they defeat the villain and fly into the sunset, the movie ends. But what about all the animals that were captured? They never free them. They probably die in their cages because the one guy who gave them food is dead. Granted, he captured them in the first place, but now they are dead for sure. Hated that ending as a kid and I wasn't able to enjoy both movies ever again. I wouldn't say this ruined the movie, but it was just so stupid. In the movie Pixels, Eddie enters a cheat code which I guess allows his car to teleport to various locations. If you haven't seen the movie, this is not a car in a video game. This is a car in the real world. You could make an argument that he was just abusing the computer system tracking them, but it still doesn't explain how he input a code from his car to hack a government military computer system. Entangled. How or why does Rapunzel know when it's her birthday? In the holiday, why do Jude Law's character's kids have their own phones? One of the is like 4. Pacific Rim. The breach is in one known location, never moves. Yet for some reason they decide to build walls or use Gijas as a last line of defense once the Kaiju are already out. Why not have a bunch of Gijas on rotation, stood next to the breach and blast the Kaiju to bits the moment they pop out? Or better yet, have a whole bunch of those plasma cannons aimed at the breach. It's such a glaring plot hole that it put me off the whole film. Like yeah, we've seen now we've covered how bad we can be at handling global threats, but surely not this bad? I mean the movie was already ruined, but in The Last Airbender, when the Earthbenders were imprisoned at some kinda camp, until the Uvutaran comes by and tells them they just need to believe in themselves or something. Suicide Squad. The whole movie was a simple hole. Why advertise Enchantress as one of the team when she's immediately the main antagonist? Slipknot died so quick. He basically wasn't in the movie. Aladdin asks Genie to make him a prince so he can be with Jasmine, as she can only marry a prince. After Jafar exposes Aladdin as the boy from the market at the end of the film, they end up defeating Jafar and Aladdin then has one wish left. He promised to Genie to set him free. Genie then suggests he make Aladdin a prince again so he can marry Jasmine and be with her. What was that first wish then, Genie? Why wouldn't the first wish stand? How can he be granted the wish of becoming a prince and then because it was found out he used to be poor he's suddenly not a prince anymore? X-Men. First Class. Darwin's death. Darwin's power is that he can adapt and survive anything. Kevin Bacon comes over and puts a light dandelion in his mouth and he just dies. 4 ulcers. That made me so ducking angry. Mostly everything in last season of Goatee. The ships never even had a line of sight to shoot the dragon out of the sky. Also, Euron's Olympic speed swim to King's Landing makes Michael Phelps look like a bitch. In The Mummy Returns there is a scene where they have to get the little kid into a pyramid before the morning sun hits it. The sun starts to rise over a hilltop and they successfully race with the sun while the light follows behind them. Except it should have been inverted. Where the light was following it should have been the shadow of the hill, and the sun should have already hit the pyramid. They inverted the interdynamic of light for a scene. I mean the movie still has many other flaws but this infuriated me. The entire reason Harry Potter was special was because he survived Voldemort as his mother was willing to lay down her life to save his. Are they seriously implying that no other person in the entire magical universe was willing to sacrifice their life for their kids or lover or something? Why didn't Drive Strange cuts off Thanos' hand? Why they didn't went over past for more Pym particles? Why didn't they build a house and live near a waterfall in a quiet place? Hey, thanks for watching and don't forget to subscribe.